Perfect. So, good evening, everyone. I am Goodness Olawere by name. I'm a Betty Microsoft student ambassador from Nigeria, and I currently, together with my team, we hold a monthly Azure series where we get to invite Microsoft's most valuable professionals and industry leaders who have gone beyond and above in every or any of their fields, right? So we get to bring them on board and make them share a certain aspect of their day-to-day work in their professional life. So one of those experts that we have here today is Dara Oladapo. So I would not be doing much introduction about him. He already has he already has a custom way of doing his thing, right? So I would hand over to that. So before that, I also have Israel, yeah, Israel Lelu. Israel is also a gold Microsoft ambassador from Nigeria, and is my team member, right? So I'll go straight into introducing Dara Oladapo. Over to you.
Okie dokie. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Very loud.
Alrighty. Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time zone you're in. I hope you're not just bound to the East-ish time zone. I hope there are people coming from the West listening to this also. Well, that's just by the way. Good day to everyone. It's about 5:07 p.m. over here in Northeast London. And it's actually good to be here again to speak to people. It's been a long time I actually spoke at a community event, quite some time, COVID times and all that. But hey, it's fun to be back. Um, well, goodness said I would introduce myself. Definitely I would. Before I start talking and rambling all about what DevOps is and all that, by way of introduction, my name is Dara Oladapo. I'm from Nigeria, based in London. I work as a senior DevOps engineer. Please don't mind the senior in the name, is just so they can rate whatever salary they think they want to give me. Okay. I'm called a senior DevOps engineer at a company called My AirOps. And what we do is we build aviation software and deploy them to private clients, people who do private jet stuff. Yeah. Don't think I'm super rich because I mentioned private jets. It's just a normal startup I work with. Um, and we build the software. We've been in the industry now for about 30-ish years, and it's really fun. About a month, 2 months ish in on the job now. I used to be a trainer at Kiwi Limited, but my job is interesting because I get to see people develop apps. I get to interact with various stakeholders in software development, people who write code, product owners, CEOs, all sort of people, and I get to write and monitor the technology that helps them deploy these things and see it working from day to day. That is one of the thrilling things in my work from this day that I really love and why I love technology so much. And I probably would never choose another career path aside from this DevOps thing that I'm doing because it's intriguing. Sometimes there'll be some flops around the way and you got to figure it out as you develop. So it's thrilling at the same time. Yeah, it could be frustrating when when the scripts don't work quite well, but I enjoy doing it every day. I would never ask for a better job. Well, at this stage in my life. So that is a bit of introduction. Outside of tech, I play the saxophone. I play the flute. I play the iwi. I'm a father. I'm a Christian. What else about me? I love playing around with gadgets, as you can see behind me. There are quite some. That's just the view you can see of my little library of gadgets. But of course, let's not worry so much about gadgets. Let's go talk some DevOps. So today, we've chosen the topic to talk about DevOps. I'll start sharing my screen in a bit. I just wanted to see my lovely face before I get demoing, because once I get into the demo mode, you probably will not see my face so nicely again, and I don't want you to miss me so much. So that's a bit of introduction about me. You can reach out to me, just Google me on Bing. Dara Oladapo, you would find me. I'll probably be the first 5 results you see on any search engine you put out there, Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and all that. Not try to be proud, but it's part of the things that happens when you've been in industry and done a bit of stuff I've done. Yeah, so that's a little bit summary about me. Now let's get talking about DevOps. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. Well, one of my screens. That should be screen number 4. All right. Can you see some sort of bullish matrix thing on your screen?
Yes, you can.
All right. And
Yes, we
me
can.
somewhere in the corner somewhere, however you set up your Microsoft Teams to look like. All right, great. So that is where I'll start my slide from. Well, of course, I'll do some demos. I don't think I'll just talk all through slides with you. I just have about 4 slides in total. I do not like slides so much. I'll showing you the raw tech. So we'll be talking about, come on, walk. Yes, so we're talking about DevOps. The what, the whys, and the how. And you probably wonder, what the heck does this guy want to talk about? What, why, how? This doesn't make enough sense. Don't worry, we're going to get to that. So we'll be talking about what DevOps is, how it came to be, why you should adopt DevOps if it's something you're considering, especially for people starting out their careers. And I'll tell you probably some real life scenarios of where DevOps comes into the cycle of software development, and of course, how you can get started. I think Emmanuel has a question starting off. Emmanuel, is that your hand up?
Okay, so we can actually save our questions to the later part of the session, so as for us to have a very smooth running, right?
All right. Okay, okay. Or you can put your questions in chat in case you feel you might forget it. All right. So let's talk about DevOps in deeper details. I'm trying to switch over my slides. Yes. What exactly is DevOps? To a lot of people, DevOps means different things depending on what their job description is. For example, I am a DevOps engineer, and this definition that I have here on my screen saying that DevOps is a union of people, processes, and products to deliver value to end users. Well, of course, I should have did that because it's not just delivering value, but it is literally continuously, is that the right spelling? Deliver value to end users. Well, what I just did right there is a little bit of DevOps. So if that spelling is wrong, please pardon me. My English is not so good. So DevOps is a union of people. I'll talk about the people, processes, and products. I want to reiterate that again. People are the different individuals that are involved in making software come to life. Think of the person who owns the product, the person who has the idea for the product, the CEO of the company, the marketing director, the software developer, the tester, the QA engineer, the program manager, the product manager, the business analyst, the whoever is involved. Even most importantly, beyond all the techies and people who actually write the stuff, the end users of the products. Bringing those stakeholders into the process. The process is software development lifecycle, which is the way you churn out software. Do you use the waterfall model or the agile model or whatever way you bring out the software? Do you just think and write code? That is the process of software development. And then the product, that thing you're working on. So bringing all this together and making them work in synergy. And the purpose of them working together in synergy is to continuously deliver value to just one very important stakeholder, the end user. So say, for example, you want to write an app that adds one and one together. Of course, that's a very silly example, but I'll use it anyways. This app is supposed to do this. You want to think of the people who want to use this app, who and what do you need to make this app work? How would you get the app to the users? Would they download it from a website? Would they go to the app store? Would they do this, do that? That is the process of getting your software out. The people who will write your code, who will design your logo, who will test your app, all those things. Those are the people that are involved, and then of course your 1+1 program. And the purpose of bringing all these people together is so that the experience of the user can indeed be better. I'll make a very good use case example here. Microsoft Windows. Windows 11 was just released October 5, I think. There was Windows 10 before that. There was Windows 8.1. There was Windows 8. There was Windows 7, Vista, XP, Windows ME. Then back in the days, I don't want to go as far back because I'm probably not that old. Okay, so previously, when Microsoft wants to release a new version of Windows, it will take them 2 years plus to develop that operating system, and then they develop and put this app in our hands, this operating system. And then what happens is users say, oh, this operating system does not work quite well. And then if you take them another 6 months to issue a service pack, I'm probably guessing some of us don't know what this means. If you've used Windows XP back in the days, you'll probably figure out and understand what I'm talking about. But if not, no worries. But then came along the way, the process of bringing the end users, people like me, people like you, people like my grandma, my grandpa, my father, my mom, my brother, my sister, my friends and family members, and making them actually give their input into how the future of Windows would look like. So they invented this program called Windows Insiders, where when they finish building, before they release to the general public, they say, please help us test this operating system and then tell us what you feel. What do you like? What don't you like? They take this feedback, of course, with analytics embedded inside it, and then they use this to make better software, deploy these fixes, we test over again, give them feedback. Of course, caveat here, I don't work at Microsoft, but I test Windows, I test Office, I test Azure. That is bringing me as the end users of this product into the cycle of this. Now, people might think DevOps is a role. Dara, you're a DevOps engineer. DevOps is only meant for techies. So don't tell me another thing. I will tell you for a fact now, my answer to that is no. DevOps is not just for techies. We have a lot of people involved in software development. We have testers, business analysts, people who don't know jack about code. And they come here and they deliver value in their own very little way. It might be people that deal with how they finance the project, people who think about the process of marketing the software. How do they manage releases? How do we communicate? How do we manage communication gap between the software engineers and the end users, between the software engineers and the product owners, between the software engineers and the marketing people? How do we bring them together in a common place? Because back in the days, when software was being developed, and I say back in the days, of course, it still happens today, how software is developed is I finish writing my code and I go tell the IT guy, this is my code, this is my installer file, an ISO file, an MSA file, go deploy it on the server, and then I'm done as a software engineer. And the IT guy will come back and say, look, guy, your code no dey work. Oh. Your code does not work. And they say, no, it's not my code, it's your server. It's not my code, it's your server. It's my server, it's not your code. And then there's conflicts. But bringing Devos into the equation now solves that problem because there'll be communication. When I'm writing my app, the reason it will probably work on my system is I have all the dependencies, I have installed all the junk where I can ever come across. And on the server that runs this code, it's a clean environment. You don't just install anything on it. So when I install a new thing, I write the list of things my app needs to run. When I'm giving the IT guy or the system engineer guy or whoever manages the server, the sysadmin, this application to deploy, it goes with a list of requirements. And I go along with them in the process of deployment, figure out what might have gone wrong in the process of deploying this thing. And then if there's problems, I come fix it, we deploy, it goes back and forth, and everybody is happy in the process of software development. That is exactly what DevOps. So it's beyond just a technology. It's beyond Circle CI or GitHub or Azure DevOps or AWS or GCP. No, that is not what DevOps is. DevOps is a way. DevOps is a culture where people involved in software development come together to continuously deliver value to the end users. Now, Windows is much better because people have been brought into the process. The end users have been brought to give their input into how the future of Windows is shaped. All right, let me talk now on the why we need DevOps. as a culture now, not as a tool. We'll talk about the tools later on, of course. Now, why do we need DevOps? Of course, I've explained some of this previously, but why do we need DevOps? These are just a little bit of the benefits of why you want to think of adopting DevOps. Of course, I'll talk about how you can get started as a DevOps engineer as a career also. I'll probably tell you a bit of story of myself in that process. Reason number one is you can reach the market faster. You want to make an app that will make you $1 million. Remember, when you have this nice idea, okay, other people have these ideas everywhere. The difference is execution. People who adopt DevOps mostly get to market 25% of the times faster than their competition because they fail fast and they learn fast from it. Why Windows can release every year or maybe issue patches every week or so is because they brought users in the press. And of course, a new macOS release comes out every 1 year. Now, it used to be longer. A new macOS release comes out. Compare that to Windows, where you get updates every week. Of course, there are patches and updates that come to Apple every week also. But in the Microsoft world, it's faster and more consistent. Every Tuesday, most likely get updates. We call it Patch Tuesday. Because when I say we now, I mean Microsoft. Of course, I don't work at Microsoft. I feel part of the company, that spirit. You get to market faster. You release updates faster to your users. You don't have to be at the office. You just click a button somewhere and the update goes to all your users. Sometimes when you wake up, you realize, oh, WhatsApp has changed, Facebook has changed, Instagram has changed, TikTok has changed today. Why you're able to see those changes, like from day to day, is because they are getting to market faster. Previously, you'd have to wait for weeks and months, maybe even years for complex applications. Also, when problems happen, MTTR means time to recover. When there's a problem in your application, when there are bugs, when there are issues, when your apps crash, when your services fail to work, by applying DevOps practices, because you're able to deploy faster, you are able to fix your issues faster than others, faster and deploy the issue fast. I'll make this good example. I think that was in 2019 or 2018. I can't quite remember. When there was this Windows 10 update that was crashing people's computer and deleting their files. It was critical. And what happened is Microsoft decided to halt the updates and issue a fix. Within 2 days, that problem was fixed. If it was the days of Windows 7, maybe not Windows 7, maybe Windows Vista or Windows XP, would have had to wait months or weeks before that update was issued. And that would be more fast loss from users. So when there are problems now, you can fix them faster. When there's a global outage of services, you can fix them faster. One was a good example is AWS going down. Some part of AWS services or cloud, is it Cloudflare AWS? I can't even remember now. I think it's Cloudflare. This DNS and caching service that went down some few months back and they affected a whole lot of services around the world. Within 1 day, they were able to recover because DevOps practice was brought in. They were able to figure out and roll back. I actually don't know what happened in the sense, but you could roll back to the previous deployment of what worked or quickly issue a fix. Also, you deliver value faster. I've explained that. I can't beat it enough. Also, you bring in automation into the process. So things that instead of you to having to right click from Visual Studio or VS Code or whatever thing you're using to write your code to deploy straight from there, you just commit your code. You maybe pick that build 5 p.m. every day, build it and deploy it to a test server. You don't have to do that manually anymore. Now, what this does for you, it lets you have the time or the free time or the leeway to innovate more on your own products. You don't have to think about the headache of deploying and running commands every time. No. What you have to think about is just improving your product. As long as you've written your unit test, commit your code and push it up there. Your tool or whatever thing you're using will pick up the code, build it out based on the rules you set for it, and deploy it to a test server. You can run your regression test. You can give this, it can read the hands of your end users, you can get analytics on it, and then you just have to focus on writing your code. That is some of the reasons you want to think about adopting DevOps practices. And now we've talked about the what, which is this very Beautiful definition. Well, of course, this is not my definition of DevOps, just a little bit of caveat here. This is a definition by Microsoft. Okay, and it was made by someone called Donovan Brown. Okay, it took him about 30 days to come up with the definition. That's one salary cycle. Okay, and then now, let's talk about the how of DevOps. Remember, from the definition of what DevOps is, it's the union of, I want to bring up my pen here. Where's my mouse? Okay, it's the union of people, processes, and products. Oops, I think I just ended my slide. Let me come back here. Let me bring that back up my screen. Don't worry, I can always recover. I'm adopting DevOps practices. Okay, I think it would be better if I do it over here. People, processes, and products. Now, when I talk about it how now, we want to talk about the process. First thing you want to think about when you want to adopt DevOps practices, you want to think of the way you deploy your software, the way you write your code. So this might take you a bit of research, of course. You want to think about things like waterfall model, agile model, extreme programming, lean model, safe Waja. There's a lot of ways you deploy software. You want to think of adopting one way, or maybe even many ways, depending on the use cases that you want to adopt. And you want to think of the people. Who are the people you need to deliver the software? And where I'll end this, of course, I still have about 30 more minutes where I'll do the demo, is the tools you want to use, okay? So deploy and build and automate and manage your application. Now, when I think about processes, I want to think around things like, one moment. For me, I think these days we mostly use Agile and Scrum. So you want to first plan your application. Or is it idea or plan? No. I think it's yeah, from idea, you get the idea of what you want to do. And then you plan, you design, you code, test, deploy, maintain, and then you repeat from idea stage. This is ideally the process we go through every day. You come from here and then you go back here. And then you go through this process over and over until you are pretty much done. Most of the time these days, we are not done in software development. We just continue until the end. Now, I said I would walk you through a demo. I'm about to get there. And the tool I want to introduce to you is an all-in-one, well, not exactly all-in-one ish. You still have to use some other tools on your computer. It's sort of an all-in-one tool that lets you bring together all these processes I've talked about in one place. At least a good chunk of it comes together in one place to help you continuously deliver value to your end users. So after my demo, because of the question I see on the chat, I will talk about how you can get started with all this thing and probably introduce you to something I'm working on in recent days where you can actually get a pathway in becoming a DevOps engineer today. Now, the tool I want to introduce to you today, of course, you don't have to take it for it, but I think it's beneficial to you. Azure Devops, that is the name of the tool. So it's a tool of tools, essentially. And what it does is that it contains tools and services that helps you manage your product lifecycle with pods. You can set your work items, things you need to deliver, user stories, flowcharts, all the things in there. Basically plan the whole lifecycle of your project with Azure Bots. And then when you write your code, you want to be able to store your code somewhere with Azure repos. It supports Git. It supports Team Foundation services. I think it supports Macros. I'm not so sure now. And then when you write your code, I said something about automating the deployment. So what you want to do is use Azure Pipelines to build and deploy your code. And the sweet part of this is you don't have to deploy it to Microsoft's cloud. You can deploy it to your own machine. You can deploy it to virtual machines in AWS or GCP, Alibaba Cloud, any other cloud that I think exists, DigitalOcean, Blue River, whatever other cloud hosting platform comes out tomorrow. Or maybe your own private cloud. If you work in organizations that have their own on-prem data centers, you can deploy there also with Azure Pipelines. Also, because testing can be hazardous, well, not exactly hazardous, I don't mean that, not hazardous. The word is can be stressful. Let me use stressful sometimes, okay? You want to be able to manage all your tests in one place. Azure Test Plans let you do that. Also, when you write your code, you want to have some things that are reusable, codes that hardly change. For example, your packages, your helper methods, all these functions that you write. You want to make them available to all your projects. Azure Artifacts lets you do that. And then finally, if you find something, if you have a tool you're using that is probably not inbuilt into Azure DevOps, for example, Kitten, SonarQube, things that help you do some more automation and test and security verification on your apps, you can get them in the extension marketplace. The sweet part of Azure DevOps now is that you don't have to use everything. Just pick the ones that work for you and make your processes better. One mistake I've seen people do every day is, oh, it's Azure DevOps, you have to use everything. I can tell you this for a fact. You can put your code in Bitbucket or GitHub. Use Azure Pipelines to build it. And have your work item process managed with Jira or what other one? Trello. It doesn't matter. As long as you are able to deliver value faster to your end users, you're good. Whatever tools you use is up to you. Of course, it's beneficial and it gives you one point of call if you use all the tools and services in Azure DevOps. But the sweet part of it is you do not have to do that. You can expose just your Azure artifacts to whatever thing you're using to build your apps, your CI/CD process, maybe in Circle CI or GitHub Actions or Octopus Deploy. It doesn't exactly matter. Pick whatever things that work for you out of all these ones and use them. Now, I said I'm going to demo. I've talked for about 30 minutes now. I better go demo before someone tells me I'm wasting time. So here, to get started with Azure, all you have to do is go to this very nice website, f.azure.com. That is the website that should be your friend now. So when you go there, it gives you the home page of Azure DevOps Services. Note that this page might be different if you're visiting this in the future, but it hasn't changed so much in the last couple of years, just maybe some additions here and there. All right. So this is the home page you go to. And the sweet part of this is you can start for free. You don't need to have money to start using Azure DevOps Services. When I started using Azure DevOps Services, it was when it was called Team Foundation Service or something, Visual Studio or something like that back over 7 years ago. And it was not this beautiful, okay? So you can start free with GitHub or just click on here. If you're clicking on this or this, you need a Microsoft account or an organizational account. Or you can just use your GitHub account and just get started immediately. For me, I'll click on sign in because I have an account with them already. But in your case, you can just start free. All right. The process is easy and simple. All right. You know what? I'm going to click on start free. I'm going to create a new organization for myself. So I'm going to put in my email here. I got lots of emails. Okay. Don't worry about that. So I'm going to put in my most preferred email over here. And I'll finish the sign-in process. Just give me a bit of time while I get my phone authenticator. All right, I finished the sign-in process. Just finishing verification on my phone now. You know what? Passwordless is the best thing in the world. Okay, do I want to stay signed in? Yes. And then what this does for me is it leads me to a page. Well, these are stuff I've been doing with Azure DevOps in the last couple of years. You can see, really beautiful. But of course, you can start a new organization. A new organization is a new account in Azure DevOps. So if you click on here, it leads you through all this process. You can sign up for newsletters and stuff if you want to. And I'm going to call this MSP Oct 21 event. Well, of course, I'm going to delete this later, but you can name this anything you want. Okay. And you want to select a region to store your stuff in. For me, I think I'll just put the UK South. Then you have to fill in this captcha. I hope I'm correct. Yeah. Oh no. Okay, this is the part where sometimes I get pissed off. Let's hope it worked this time. I think it worked. I think it definitely worked. So I get a new Azure DevOps organization now. And what remains for me is to get started and just start writing, get started on my project. But of course, there's a little bit of a caveat in this getting started. I don't like to go through this way because it uses a project template I do not like. That's just one gotcha right there. I don't do that. So what I do is I go over to organization settings first, and I will do some customizations here, okay? You can rename your organization if you want to. You can put a logo, I think. Nope. All right. You can delete the org. You can change the owner. What I want to go is go over to process. And I want to make my default process agile. Okay. And I go back to my home page now. And this shows up for me. This is what I want to see. For the first time experience, it doesn't look like that. Well, for over a year, it's been like that. I don't know why Microsoft has not changed that process. But of course, so let me call this Hello DevOps. You can name this anything you want, okay? And I'm going fast because I'm running against time, but of course, you can watch this recording over and play it in 0.75 times on YouTube so that you get through it step by step with me. Of course, I can give it a description. I wonder if you remember lorem ipsum. If you use it at all, you can make it you can make a public project or a private project. I'm going to make a private project, and I can select my work item process. You can use Chrome Basic. I prefer using Agile most times. So I'll create that project. This is perfectly okay if you see this because I didn't go through the normal flow. This is perfectly okay. So I'll click on go back home here, and I see my project. Another thing I like to do, I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but I think dark mode is the best. So I'm going to go change my theme here to dark. Now my eyes can rest. Now, this is my Azure DevOps project, my fresh project. I can create as many projects as I want. But here, let me manage my work items. I can create a bug. I can create an epic. I can create a feature, an issue, a task, a test case, a user story. I can do all that stuff. I can check through. I can have it in a sort of a tabular Kanban format. I'm going to close this. So I can add more stories. I can say as a user, I want to have fun. I want to be happy. And I can, of course, change the process, the status of each of them. I can make them closed. I can customize this also as much as I want by clicking on settings. Okay, but I'll leave it as simple as this right now, okay? And then I can go to my repos, which is a bit of fun here, okay? I can decide to clone this in my favorite code environment, Android Studios, Sea Lion. I think I just use Visual Studio and VS Code in my own case. Or I can initialize a new repository here. Because I like .NET so much, I'm going to use the Visual Studio templates, add a README file to it and initialize. Boom, and I have my files. I can clone this to VS Code if I want to, but I wouldn't do more than that in here, okay? So this is the process. manage with Azure bots. You remember the definition of DevOps? Combination of people, processes. This is the process where I do my stuff. And then the code that I work with, I can decide to clone this down, start working on it, write my very awesome code and push it up there with Git on my desktop or whatever environment I'm using. And then also, I talked about deployments. Pipelines let you do that. I can literally go create my own very first pipeline here and check the fun bit of this. I can decide to use the repositories in my own organization, or I can use Bitbucket, or I can use GitHub, so I can connect to GitHub from here. I can use any other Git service that I have. Maybe I have a private Git server under my desk, which I don't. Or I can use Subversion. Or maybe even I'm a very old DevOps person. Back in the days, we used to use a classic editor, but back in this about 4-ish years ago. And then this gives us a graphical flow of processes. For me, I think I want to use Azure Repos Git. And what it will do here is it will list out all the repository I have under this project. I can even select another project if I want to. I'll pick my repository. For here, if I have a YAML file in my code already, maybe a developer has done that and created a YAML file, I can use an existing YAML file. Or maybe I'm the DevOps engineer, I want to do this from afresh. I can use the starter pipeline. Or one other sweet thing that this does is whatever code I put in there, maybe Python or JavaScript or Ruby or C# or Java, it will scan my code and give me suggestions like this one on what it thinks I want to build out. But for this, I'm going to use a starter pipeline. Okay? And I'm going to save and run this. Let's just see if this will work. It might not work and it might work. If it doesn't work, I'll tell you why it did not work. If it works, I'll say yes, congratulations. So let's see. Yep. The reason why this does not work is I have exhausted the amount of free stuff I can use with Azure DevOps, which is totally fine. Okay. So what I need to do in this case is create a build agent, which means I have to create a virtual machine somewhere in the cloud. You know what? I think I got time. Not so much of a time. I will share a link to a video where you can go watch how to set up a build agent and then make this pipeline really work out for you. For some reason, this would not work just for some very crazy, weird reasons. All right. But of course, let's leave that at the way it is. I'm going to go do the other demos. Test plans lets me check out how I manage tests in my project. So I can call this demo tests, create a test plan, and I can start putting in test cases. I can create a new test case. Our app must be beautiful. Of course, this is not a real test case. It must be beautiful. I save that and close. And then I can decide to run tests on it if I want to. All those kind of tests. Artifacts lets me manage packages. It helps me manage things my applications depend on and don't change frequently. And because I'm running against time here, these are things you can find out on the internet, on YouTube, on GitHub, on the YouTube channel for the Microsoft Lens with ambassadors on my YouTube channel. They're on the internet on Microsoft Docs, which is really helpful. To walk you through creating a pipeline and connecting feed will be a lot more stretch right now. But of course, I hope this has given you a bit of, a ginger to know that you can pick anything you want out of all these ones. Okay. But of course, now to answer one of the questions I saw that kind of piqued my interest. How do you get started as a DevOps engineer? Well, I've sort of finished all the demos I want to demo, so I'll probably show this one now. I'll show this bit. Okay. So you can start putting your questions. But to answer, how do you become a DevOps engineer? Well, there's no one way per se. Okay. But what I'll say is how I probably got started is I started off as a Windows Phone developer when Windows Phone was still Windows Phone before it became dead. And then I realized I needed to deploy code. So my thinking changed from writing the code to thinking of automating the process of deploying my code to my end users. So I have this app that's supposed to run on my Infinix phone. Okay. I write the code on my Windows computer, on my Mac computer, or in Android Studio, whatever place I write my code. Do I want to be sending APKs every time I finish writing a version of my code? So what I did was I Googled online, automate deployment of Android apps, literally. And then I discovered App Center. I discovered Visual Studio Online. I discovered all this nice, then I got learning. Becoming DevOps engineer is just all about learning and improving. You want to think of improving processes. And how do you get started? You have a sample code. There are a lot of sample codes on GitHub based on different languages. Pick out any of these codes, put in your Google search or your Bing search, how to deploy an Angular app to AWS or Google or Azure or Alibaba Cloud with mention the name of the tool, Azure Devops, GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Octopus Deploy, and then start that simple project. Deploy something. When you deploy the first one, look at it. How can you improve this process that you have done? Go back online, search, watch videos, improve on that process. That is literally what I do every day. My job every day is not defined as a DevOps engineer. Okay, some days it might be me managing billing, managing how much my company spends on Azure. I'm trying to bring it down. Some days it might be fixing Azure CLI scripts. Some days it might be writing PowerShell. Some days it might be looking at literal C# code. Some days it might just be meetings. So it's not exactly defined. As DevOps engineers, we are like the multidisciplinary engineers in our organizations because we interact with code, we interact with scripts, we interact with here and there. Well, that's as a DevOps engineer. Other roles that are in the DevOps space do not have to be as technical as I am. For me, I understand C#. It means because my organization uses C# heavily and Angular, it means I have to understand how C# works and how Angular works. I don't have to be a pro C# developer or a pro Angular developer to know how to deploy their code. But the basic thing, how this code works, how one thing connects to, because essentially what I'm working with most is configuration files, deployment files. I want to understand how the C# code connects to an environment variable. How do I set that in my own deployment? Those are the things that I learn every day. And I think of improving these processes from time to time. So how do you get started as a DevOps engineer? You literally think of how code is being deployed and you think of how to improve it. Do a sample, write about it, blog about it. There are free blogging avenues out there. Put it out there. Look for roles, internships where you can actually practice these things. Volunteer for NGOs that have stuff they want to deploy. Do it for them. You gain experience this way, and then reach out to anyone you think is a pro in the DevOps. So people like me, put out your CV out there. If I have a friend who is employing someone in a DevOps beginner role, I'll recommend you for free. I don't mind doing that. People are literally there who want to help out. Reach out to them, ask questions, a lot of questions. How do I do this? I'm doing this. How do I improve the process? That is simply what a DevOps engineer does every day, improving processes. Do I need to write code before starting DevOps? The answer is no, but also a yes. Why did I say that? To be better and faster and more effective, you need to have a basic understanding of programming constructs. It might just be as simple as a 7-day how to write C# code you want to go through. But of course, the more you want to excel, the more in-depth you have to go into the fields that surround your occupation. I started as a C# programmer. That's why I can literally close my eyes and deploy any .NET code I find today. It doesn't mean I don't get my ass kicked every time I want to deploy code. For about 3 days now, I've been battling how to deploy Xamarin code because he's using some latest MS build version. So sometimes you still get your ass kicked even though you're a very good programmer. Yes, that happens. But of course, your deep understanding of codes help you become a better DevOps engineer. It helps you interact better with developers. But you do not have to do that every day. I have no clue how the 42 projects that would deploy in my organization works. But what I know is when I look at my PowerShell script that connects to Azure CLI, I look at those scripts, I know what projects they connect to, and I know what they're supposed to deploy. If something breaks in my script that is supposed to connect to their apps, I know where to go look. That is why understanding of coding will help me. If not, I will have to wait till an engineer is available, a software engineer is available to work through the code together and connect it to me. But of course, if I know how to code and it's a code problem, I can literally use an hotfix to their code, do a pull request to them, and then everybody's happy. It's all about synergy. Remember when I said I talk about union of people, those people. So if I understand code, I'm helping the programmers become better. It doesn't mean my day job is coding. I don't write code every day. I can write some automation to, for example, these days I'm writing some tool that automates how we map our Azure costs with C#. I don't have to do that. Of course, I can literally download the invoice and do Excel and then just send Excel. But of course, because I know how to write code, I quickly conjure something together and push it out to them. But of course, you don't have to be an everyday programmer, but a good understanding of coding will help you be a better DevOps engineer. And I think you should actually learn code. Everybody should learn coding, even if you won't use it every day. Is there any other question for me? Okay, I think that's all the question I have in the chat. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I almost forgot that.
Oh, my
Okay, I think a question is coming in the chat. Do you have a video about Azure DevOps? Yes, I do. So if you go to youtube.com/Dara Oladapo, I have, yeah, I can probably even get you a link. I should create a definitive playlist for my DevOps stuff. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find a playlist called Smooth Dev Saturday. Let me just say that and put that in chat for you. I started some DevOps series in there. Yes, literally, it was the first thing that came up when you do the search on YouTube. I'll let you do the search by going to this link. The first video is that Smooth Saturday 014. That a playlist comes after that has 18 videos. You probably want to benefit from it. But of course, if that does not show for you, I'm just gonna give you the playlist link. You're very welcome.
okay.
And if my
So
YouTube channel is not sufficient, you can use other ones. As a beginner, tools, for me, I don't think tools are the most important. Use whatever works for you. That is my advice to you. Because I don't want to push my own preferences on you. If I tell you Visual Studio is the best, it might be best for me because of what I do. For you, it might be the worst. But of course, it should be the best. I'm just put an example. It might not be, your machine might not be powerful enough to run it. VS Code might be the best for you in terms of machine capacity. So I don't want to push what I think is my own preference on you. But as a beginner, and I might be totally wrong here, I think VS Code is a good tool. Everybody uses it and everybody loves it. You support extensions, so you can use the Azure extensions, Azure DevOps extensions, and then with Azure DevOps on your browser, with GitHub Actions, GitHub Copilot coming soon, all these nice things that is being done and developed every day, you're just good to go. So for me, my combo, I'll give you my combo, and of course you don't have to choose everything. My everyday combo is Visual Studio plus VS Code plus Windows Terminal, and then I use a bit of PowerShell. This is my everyday combo. But for you, it might be different. I hope that answers your question, Sunday.
Oh,
You're welcome. And if you have any questions for me after today, probably you forgot the question or you are too shy to ask it here, you can always DM me on Twitter or just put a comment on any of my blog posts. I will see them and I will answer them. Okay, that's it from me. Okay, there's one question from Steve. How easy is it for a DevOps engineer to get a role? Well, I probably say that's relative in terms of your location, skill, and exposure. If you're rightly exposed, you can easily get something, maybe even as a junior. And also, I would advise you become a part of a community just like this one, because when opportunities come up, it comes to the community first before it gets out. Okay, so be part of a community. Also, what I advise anyone in the technology industry, have a strong profile online, on YouTube. If you learn something new, write a blog post about it. It can be on Medium. That is part of how you become exposed. When I started learning Visual Studio, back in 2011, 2012-ish, I had no clue what I was doing, but I was teaching my peers. Even though I was probably teaching them rubbish then, I have no idea what I was teaching them, but I was teaching them anyway. So when opportunities come, there's this DevOps show. They don't know what it is, but I've talked about it in their ears before. They're like, this guy can do it. Then they forward it to me. I'm like, okay, I can do it too. I can try you. I submit my CV. I probably will get a job. I learned something new. I read a short article about it. Put it on Medium or Ashnode. Or is that what it's called? Put it out there. You don't have to be it doesn't have to be like the most professional thing you ever write. Just write and document it there. That is how you get your profile on. So when you submit your application for a job and the recruiter goes and Googles your name or Bings your name, they find those articles, they see your track progress of history online, and they'll say, oh, this person has an attitude of learning and documenting. I think they're a good fit. Let's interview them. From there, they'll see, okay, we think we like you, you're going to get the job. But I'll probably say DevOps engineer roles are really good. And it's easy to get the job if you know what you're doing. That's what I'll say. And now you get exposed documents, put yourself online literally.
much, Dara Oladapo. Before I continue, please, am I audible enough?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a question as regards the prior coding knowledge you talked about. So for somebody who actually doesn't have a coding knowledge, as that now, would you advise or would you recommend or would you say that that person should, and of course the person wants to get started in DevOps, would you advise that that person should learn coding first, or how would you advise that that person go about that?
Well, I advise everyone to learn coding, to be honest. If you want to be a DevOps engineer, a tester, or a product owner, or a business analyst, learn coding. You don't have to do it every day. You can start with languages as simple, and when I say simple, I don't mean to diss the language. Languages like Python, it's easy to learn. You can literally learn Python in 7 days if you're serious. Learn a bit of coding, and then you can decide, okay, I know a bit of code. I know the fundamentals, because that is what you want to learn out of it. The fundamentals, because every programming language today is the same. It's just the syntax that is different. You know the fundamentals in a couple of days, and then you decide, do I want to be a core programmer, or do I want to have more fun and be a deployment person? So that little project that you did out of that 7 days learning, or 1 month or 2 months or 6 months or 1 year learning of your Python, you take that code and you deploy it with Azure Devops or with GitHub Actions or with Circle CI. Your journey begins. Write more complex stuff, deploy them. Take other people's complex stuff, deploy them. And the fun begins. So if you want to learn coding, Python is probably the fastest language you can learn. I probably wouldn't say Python is the fastest about 2-3 years ago. I'll probably stick with, C#, C#, C#. But I learned Python myself. I learned Python this year, literally. Yep. And I think it's something that is simple enough to learn and get started with quite easily and up on your feet.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dara. So
yeah, Chilezie said there's a website that teaches you Python in 24 hours. That's awesome. Super awesome. Thanks, boss. Oh, I finished talking. Okay, can we get, yeah, Destiny, your question has an answer coming on my GitHub repo in a couple of days. I started writing in the pipeline and Azure Devops 101 kind of stuff. So if you go to, let me kind of find a repo for you. So I'm having sort of an Azure Devops 101 kind of thing that I'm writing. I pray I'm serious with it. Yeah, I'm trying to put this here. So this repository will be updated from time to time to contain my latest updates on this stuff. Yeah, that's what I can say. So I'm trying to put that roadmap in there. I hope it helps somebody.
thank you very much, Dara Oladapo. So we've actually come to the end of the event for today. I was saying something at the time. I think I got logged out again by my very frustrating network. So thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming on board today. I was saying that you sparing us an hour of your time is actually a very big thing, because that 1 hour cost about £10,000, if I'm not mistaken. And
I don't know about that, brother.
okay, so for everybody who registered for this event, but due to one or two reasons, we're not able to join. This call is recorded and would be uploaded on our YouTube channel before the end of tomorrow, today or tomorrow. So you can go back and go back to that. Oh, I'm very sorry, but we have come to the end of the program. You might want to send your message to your question or your message to the chat box. So thank you very much.
Okay.